Welcome
to the Bring Me to Life podcast.
It's time to wake up
and shine on. Hello. Welcome to another episode of the Bring Me to Life podcast. I'm super excited to be here. I think we're at episode 207. And this is Shannon Shine here with my partner, Selomon.
Hey everybody, thank you for joining us as you are in whatever year you're in. I don't know. You could be from the future listening to this 100 years from now, and if you are, wow.
Wow, what's up, time traveler? Thanks for tuning in to us.
Yeah. We got a lot to say here today, talking about trauma and how we can work through trauma, how we can rewrite trauma. We have a special meditation at the end, so stick around for that.
Totally. Yeah, I think this is going to be a really great topic. If you missed last episode, we were talking about childhood experiences and tapping into our inner child and really embracing things that, maybe brought us joy as we were growing up. And now we're kind of going to reflect on what it's like to work through things that maybe weren't as joyful growing up, because many of you that are tuning in are probably on some sort of spiritual adventure, and you're starting to really do some shadow work or reflecting on your journey to what got you here right now. And often, at least from my personal experience, what brought me to the most adventurous parts of my spiritual journey were reflecting on the amount of trauma that I dealt with growing up. And I feel like that seems to be a common factor for many people on the journey.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I really want this to be very open for everybody of all levels of trauma. And, trauma is trauma. It doesn't matter if it's big, hurtful, deep trauma or if it's little bits of trauma that might add up over time. Like, it's still trauma. Just treat it as, as something sacred because it is sacred. It is something that will help us to move forward. It's something that will help us to work on the things that we need to. And it's also a sign of how strong and capable and powerful that we are. When we go through some kind of trauma, like physically with our health, then if we are blessed and we begin to make a shift that will help us to heal whatever the trauma is or whatever pain or physical health issues you have, and you finally make progress, and then you kind of overcome that, you begin to become a lot more grateful, and I tried to think about like trauma with different people I see, and I'm like, that they're dealing with a lot of trauma. I should be very grateful that, I have all of my limbs, for example. And there's, bless you out there listening. If you don't have all of your limbs, I'm sure you have, a lot to deal with. It's tough because our limbs, we don't realize how important they are until something happens. And I've almost had that happen to me when I was in middle school. I feel like I've been saved quite a lot of times because of just like angels around me. And there was one time in middle school, I was at shop class and I was trying to cut something on the table saw. And the table saw was like a big deal. And one of my pieces didn't go all the way through, so I tried to like move it with my hands, and the teacher yelled at me really loudly. It scared me. So I pulled my hand away and he ran over and turned it off. And he was like, "You almost lost your fingers." And then ever since then, I've actually always thought about what would have happened if I had lost those fingers, because that would have been trauma I would still be working through, And so I just want to say, all of you out there, like, this is going to be a tough topic and you might get triggered at some point, and just like try to love yourself through this episode.
Yeah, that was quite the story to open up with. I think it's important for people to realize that trauma comes in all shapes, sizes, and forms, and that different people will view different things as trauma. And the actual definition of trauma is an emotional response to just any sort of terrible event, like an accident, a natural disaster, or maybe even something more intense like rape or sexual abuse, or something that usually is out of your control that happens to you that leaves a lasting impact. So trauma sometimes also doesn't show up or become understandable to a person. Like, you might be like, oh, I don't really have anything that traumatizing right now, which is pretty rare. If you're someone who's like, I can't think of anything traumatizing right off the bat, then you're in a good spot. But I do know a few people that have come to me as clients or even friends that are like, I can't figure out what my trauma point is. Like, they're upset about something, they're going through some sort of situation or a health situation of some kind. They're like, I'm trying to figure out what my trauma is. I've had a good life. My parents were really good to me and things. And like, they haven't even had a chance to reflect and realize what could have been traumatizing to them. And often I've seen people that will play the victim and let their trauma overwhelm them. But I also see people who sometimes feel bad that they don't have a bigger trauma situation.
Right. Interesting, because people look at others suffering and it's like that dilemma of like, how can I enjoy my life when I know others are suffering?
Right. So there's these two different spectrums of people that deal with their trauma in different ways, and it's really a wild adventure when you start kind of unraveling the layers. I once had a teacher explain it to me like an onion. Like, you take off the layers of an onion and you go towards that core, and as you peel them away, you start to, have this like energy ball of trauma that starts to get smaller and smaller until, it might never go away because healing is a process, but it's not such a big energetic hole in your emotional body.
Yeah. It could become something new, like a catalyst for your art career, or a catalyst for a new series you want to make.
I mean, my trauma has made me who I am today, and I think that's pretty crazy because, I talk about this a lot, but my biggest traumatic event obviously was when I was really young. I was not only abused by different people in my upbringing, but I lost my mom at 6, and that was a super powerful, influential experience for me. And I early on realized that I had two choices. I could either let things take me down and hold me back, or I could use it as, like you said, a catalyst to really shoot me forward and, inspire me to be the best version of me I could be. Like, I know a lot of people that I grew up with. I was put in a lot of different sort of like emotional groups with other children and people who had lost parents or went through divorce. And many of them got really sad and really depressed, and they didn't necessarily have a support system or a way of thinking of it in a inspirational way. They just allowed the sadness and I'm not saying there's anything wrong with this at all, because some people have a different sort of grieving process in different situations. But for me, I found that the sadder I got, the more painful my body felt, the more lost and confused I felt, the more helpless I felt. I felt like I was a bigger burden on the people around me because I was sad and frustrated and confused, and I didn't even know necessarily how to acknowledge those feelings. And as I started to see that in the people around me too, I realized that I didn't want to experience life in that way. Seeing that as a child and seeing both other children and adults both going through these traumatic experiences with me, it was really powerful to see different people's reactions to different traumatic events in their life.
So you were saying when it happened, you had this kind of like a question come into your head, like what road am I going to go down? And would you say that moment kind of was like a in the moment rewriting, where you got a glimpse of what road you could have gone down, and in that moment decided to rewrite it in your brain?
I mean, I feel like I'm constantly rewriting it because, like I said earlier, trauma doesn't just heal overnight. I think it's a constant journey. And there's still even moments in the now where I could easily play the victim. And I have to ask myself, like, how do I want to respond to this situation? How do I want to let this emotion express itself in my reality, because I could still at any moment fall into a depression and be sad that, you know, I don't have either of my parents. I've, you know, experienced a lot of loss. I even recently started to personally unravel different abusive kind of flashbacks that happened to me as a child. Like sometimes people who have very traumatic childhood experiences sometimes will repress them, and they won't come out until you're an adult. And sometimes it'll be something that you're doing, or maybe even a smell or a phrase that somebody will say that will trigger that. And you might think you're really over that situation, and it will just flash back into your body like a vibration, and you have to kind of figure out how you want to react to that. Trigger warning on like sexual abuse and things like that. There were times in my younger years where I was physically abused and, you know, touched and cornered in ways that were not appropriate or pleasant. So then as I grew into my adolescent years, when people would start to try to like flirt with me or want to touch me or cuddle me, I would instantly shut down and just kind of freeze, or I would fight. Like my fight or flight instincts would kick in, until I started to really feel safer in my own body and a confidence in the understanding of why those things happen to me, how I can navigate my emotions when I'm starting to feel that fear creep in. And for me in that situation, it's been a lot about claiming power back and being like, all right, I'm in this situation. This time I can be in control. You know, when you're younger and you're having those situations happen, or if you're unknowing of what those experiences can lead to, you're just, you know, not expecting it. And as I've dealt with the trauma, I don't want to say I have an expectation of something bad happening, but I know now that if that situation arose again, how I would react, because I've witnessed it in my mind through the trauma response enough times now to breathe through it and to find people I feel safe with. But I feel like I rewrite it almost every day. There's something that comes up that triggers some sort of traumatic thing that happened to me as a child, and I have to ask myself, like, all right, do I want to be upset about this? Do I want to grow from this? What's the lesson I can learn, and how can I implement it in my reality?
So much love to you and your past self who experienced those things, and to everybody who's experienced sexual trauma, which is unfortunately a large percentage of the world's population. And I think that's a big thing that we're going to have to heal as a collective, is that, you know, sexual just trauma, you know, because it's a big thing. Sexuality is a huge energy in this world. And I think if we all had that purity with it, and just that, you know, those good intentions and that consent and all that, you know, just baked into a delicious pie, like we have a long way to go. And I just want to wish everybody, you know, all the love in the world for everything.
Yeah, I mean, sexual trauma is definitely one of the bigger situations that I think we're healing as a collective. I can honestly say I think I know more people. Actually, I can barely think of people who haven't had some sort of sexual or abusive situation. If it wasn't sexual in an intimate or harassment level, then it's been like verbally through a sexual or intimate partner. So, or even like physically, it's something usually related to some sort of sexual connection, whether it was during childhood, adolescence, adulthood. And that's the thing, is trauma can happen at any point in your life. At any point in your life, something can trigger an emotional response that lasts within you. So that's why they say, like, your reaction to a situation is such a powerful thing. And how we treat other people, and whether we're the ones causing trauma too. Like, it's important to think about that. I often wonder, you know, like, thinking about, you know, the situations I was in growing up, I'm about the same age as my mom and dad were when those things were happening. And to think of them, or me having a child the same age that I was, that was going through those things, like, would they have known how much of an impact was being left on my little brain? You know, like, I don't think that a lot of people think about that. But now we have this new, like, wave of empathic beings and people that are starting to really connect on an emotional level. We're a different generation. You know, people didn't talk about their emotions and their feelings and their intuitive visions, or even trauma in general. I feel like the concept of trauma is kind of a new thing, because we're not only healing trauma from our own lives, like we experience trauma in the womb. Like if your mother is experiencing trauma while you're in the womb, you're feeling that tension in your creation. So your trauma can start before you're even here. That's why I mean that it's like typically out of your hands, like it's out of your control. It's something that happens to you whether or not you are putting yourself in the situation oftentimes. And it's part of our experience as souls to come here and to feel through emotions, and trauma happens to be a part of that experience.
So what are some mediums? What are your favorite mediums to work through trauma, or to even rewrite it? Do you enjoy painting the most? We all know you're an artist. Is maybe journaling? Does that help you more for this specific topic of, you know, trauma, working through and rewriting it?
Well, something that's been really interesting has, I guess, been rewriting it in a more literal sense. I've had a couple of different people I've worked with, or even just meditations I've heard online, where they have us reflect to a time of our younger self, or a time that we just felt the most traumatized. A couple of them have different, almost like tapping. I don't think it's the EFT tapping. There was a couple of different modalities, but writing is probably the easiest if you don't have access to any of that kind of technique. Mm-hmm. So grabbing a journal.
But you'd think meditation's powerful.
Meditation's powerful, and it's even more powerful mixed with the writing a letter to your younger self. Would it be more powerful to meditate with writing, or is writing as powerful as both of them? Does meditation and writing complement each other to the point where it's like you combine them together and they're like peanut butter and jelly? I mean, kinda, yeah. That's why I'm like, can't see the face I'm giving him, but I'm giving him a really weird face, because I'm like, to me, they obviously go hand in hand, but typically I want to write after I meditate because I think of something while I'm trying to force myself to sit still. Writing's better for me because I don't like sitting still, and I start thinking about things and get sidetracked. So if I'm writing to my younger self, I'm more likely to get through the whole process. But what I was trying to say is there's this meditation writing process that I do where I try to go back to my younger self and write them a letter or feel into that situation. And I've kind of, I think I might have even talked about this last week, where it's like a Patronus of sorts, where Harry Potter like thinks he's seeing his dad or his ancestor or somebody else, but it's really his future self coming back into that moment to like save him. And I feel like we do that a lot through meditation, in writing, in different forms of practices, where we send our future selves back and can give ourselves comfort. And I often kind of wonder now, every time I do that practice, is that why I was able to navigate things is the way I did as a child? Was it really me in the now sending myself back there? And, you know, I think it is.
I know it's a lot to talk about this, and it can be very emotional talking about trauma and getting into trauma. So, you know, apologies for if I am a little sensitive. I've been through my own trauma, you know, sexually and physically and verbally and all of that as well. So just know that, you know, I'm trying to listen and be compassionate, and by asking questions, I'm not trying to make them seem foolish. I'm not trying to ask stupid, silly questions, but you know, sometimes that happens. So when you gave me that face, it just like it was one of my trauma points, because you know, my dad always called me moron. He always called me stupid. He always called me these things that really hurt me emotionally. And so sometimes when like I feel like people are insinuating with an expression or with their body language or whatever that, I might be dumb or I might be stupid, or if that was, whatever I did was that, then a little bit of trauma comes up. So that's the reason why there might have been a little bit of silence, because I was just trying to like experience and understand, why I felt that way.
I see. Well, that's interesting that that's how that made you feel and that it triggered a trauma response in you, because I was making the face because I was confused. It had nothing to do with the question or me assuming or thinking that you were anything less than trying to have a conversation with me. The face was simply because I was confused. But that's just kind of an example of how people can be triggered about something traumatic, and it, one, not be anything related to the other person, and two, misunderstood on their end and just trigger something instantly. And because we're talking about trauma, probably a lot of your triggers are at the service. So it's good that you're able to share.
Yeah, I didn't want to, I don't know. People don't know what you're going through if you don't express it. I'm the type of person who usually doesn't express, and that's probably why you all hear Shannon talk a lot more than me, is because it's not natural for me, okay? It's not natural for me to express myself through my voice, because that was always suppressed as a kid. That was always suppressed as a kid. So I got in the habit of not using it. I got in the habit of getting shushed when I tried to talk to my parents. I have the trauma of being abandoned. Like they didn't die. I still have my parents, and I'm very, very, very grateful for that. But, it felt like they abandoned me as a kid, and I know my brother feels that way, even if he doesn't say it, but he's told me in private before. And, if any of my parents are listening, like, I love you guys so much, but this is just, they try to do their best, but I think sometimes trauma happens no matter if you try to do your best. And that's why we got to find ways like meditation and writing to be able to work through it, to be able to acknowledge and accept it, and find ways that we can use them as a catalyst or as inspiration or as ways of growing and becoming more than who you are now.
Beautiful. Yeah, it's interesting how the trauma response triggers in different people, because like you said, for you, it has made you kind of take a step back, and sometimes it takes you longer to process your voice and things like that. Where with me, I was also told to be seen and not heard. So I made it kind of my mission to make sure I'm heard. And I talk about things that trigger me and trauma me a lot, because I want other people to feel safe doing the same. I want people to feel safe talking about vulnerable things. I don't want people to feel uncomfortable if, they have to share that they've been hurt in a way that feels yucky to them, and they might naturally be embarrassed that someone took advantage of them that way, or somebody forgot them somewhere or something like that. Like, those are the stories we need to share, because people are so afraid of sharing the stories with each other and feeling like a fool or feeling lesser than or feeling judged. But the more we share them, the more we bring awareness to people that this is happening around the world, and this is happening to so many people on so many levels, and it's been held behind closed doors for so long, and we make excuses for the generations above us and even below us that get away with things. And it can't keep happening if we want to evolve as a human race. We've got to stop hurting each other, and we got to learn how we're hurting each other, how we feel disrespected, and also come to, common ground, because some people are more sensitive than others, and some people are triggered by different things. But, you learn a lot about a person, and it's easy to navigate other people's feelings. It doesn't mean you have to take away your own boundaries or anything, but it doesn't hurt to learn about the people you're interacting with and learn about what their triggers are and how you can hold space for them. Like you said, just even trying to not make such misunderstood faces so that you don't feel like I'm judging you, kind of thing. Like, there's a lot of different little things that people could talk about And those are the conversations that get missed. And you do have a lot of different traumatic experiences or things that have, made you who you are. You said that you've felt forgotten a lot, and you have a couple of different stories. You grew up with a lot of siblings, like you said. So I bet that was kind of an interesting experience of feeling, maybe not seen or even forgotten somewhere.
Yeah. It's not anybody's fault. It's just something that happens. And even people with the best of intentions, like, can cause trauma to somebody. I'm sure I've caused trauma to people without, meaning to. And it's not until people share that trauma that I've been able to realize, oh my goodness, like, sometimes you don't realize kind of like what you're doing until somebody tells you and makes you realize what effect it's having on other people. And then, okay, wow. Then I can grow and I can become a better human, and, like, we can all together make this a less traumatic place to be. Especially the people with the good intentions listening right now who may have caused trauma to somebody else. Like, it's okay. Like, we all make mistakes, but own up to it, and let's move forward. Let's just be more mindful, and let's try to put our best foot forward.
Yeah, sometimes we're just certain characters in people's reality too. Like, we sometimes respond to people in a way that they've, maybe created us in their mind too. Have you ever done something and kind of looked back and be like, why did I even react that way? And it was this weird kind of mixed timeline experience where you were trying to have your own response and that person was, reflecting a response. I know there's been different times where I've had conversations with people or responses with people where I was like, all right, well, that just channeled through me. I guess that they needed to learn that lesson in some which way. And, I'll still take ownership for, if I do something that hurts somebody, I apologize and I will own that. But like you said, not everybody knows when they're creating a traumatic experience. I am sure that, my parents didn't realize what was happening because my dad was also abused and traumatized, and even if he knew what was happening, I know that in the long run he was trying to do his best and sometimes was in the wrong place or just had me at the wrong place at the wrong time, and that's no one's real fault. It was meant to be a part of my journey, and I guess that's part of rewriting my script is I've accepted that, it's been a part of my hero's journey of ups and downs, and sometimes we have to hit rock bottom and make it to the top. And if I wouldn't have had those traumatic experiences throughout my life, and I'm sure you too, they wouldn't have inspired you to be or do the things you're doing now and to show up for people and love people the way that you do now.
Yeah, I know we have a program, and it's the Divine Expression Creativity. In this module, we did a trauma week. But I know you do your own course on the chakras. And is this something that you work through with the chakras? Does like chakra meditation help with this kind of stuff?
Thanks for mentioning that, because my alignment course, it's a 8-week course. I have it on demand, and I'm going to be running a live version probably towards the end of summer, early fall, because it is all about working through trauma. We work through our fears, we work through our guilt, we work through our shame, we work through our grief, we activate our voice and learn how to talk about it. We work with our third eye and feel into, like intuitive guidance of maybe why it happened or how we can connect with spirit on it. And then we release the attachment to it through the crown. And I use the chakras in a very different way than they're probably typically used in yoga and things like that. I'm not from, like that kind of standpoint in it. I use it in a more emotional sense, I suppose. And we work through understanding emotions, because for me, not knowing how I felt about something meant that I just kept it in and pushed it inside, and I didn't deal with it at all. So once I realized what emotions caused what kind of energetic response in my body, And I started asking myself, like, okay, where in my body hurts? Because trauma causes literally a physical response in your experience. Like, your legs might hurt because you're ungrounded. Your throat might hurt because you're not speaking your truth. Your head might hurt because you're not, like, seeing something in an intuitive way, or you're not releasing attachment to something. Like, I started to really realize how these things showed up in my physical body. And when I realized they were connected to different chakra points and different traumatic experiences, then I was able to really evolve through it and to create practices for myself, or give myself the tools like oils or crystals, or work with certain color therapies, or even angels, to help release these different traumas. Like, when I need to feel protected now, I work with angels. So I call upon Archangel Michael. If I don't feel good, or if I'm dealing with even like a more like sexual trauma, I'll call on like Archangel Raphael for the healing to make my body feel better, and then Archangel Michael for the protection. If I want the confidence in a situation, I call upon like Archangel Ariel. So like, I've come up with these different tools and these different connections and energy support systems, and I put it all in my alignment series. And I've actually just recently put it all into a book, and the book isn't necessarily ready just yet. You guys are actually the first ones I'm actually mentioning it to, but I've worked on the book. It's being submitted for print. I'm hoping to get a copy soon, and I'm really excited about it, because if you are dealing with a trauma response right now, or you're just starting to unfold things, or your body just hurts and you have no idea where to start, then this might be a good thing for you to check out. So hit me up.
Nice. And did you mention the website?
It will be on my website, shantasticshine.com, where you can find all of my cool art and all the things, my books, my courses. The course is on shantasticshine.com. You go to, it says channeled offerings, and then that's where my like courses in containers are. So there's one called alignment. If you look up chakra, CHAKRA, yeah, I think I'm one of those people. I'm supposed to like write it and say it. Anyway, chakra. If you do that in my search bar too, it will come up, or just send me a message. I'd love to get you any information, because if you're working through something traumatic, if you can't tell by my endless babbling, I've worked through a lot of trauma. And one of my missions is to be who I needed when I was younger. And when I say younger, that doesn't mean you have to be younger than me, because most of the people I work with actually are older than me. And if the course doesn't sound like something you can keep up with, then schedule a soul session with me so I can connect with you, because I want to hold space for that, and to see what we can do to get you, shining on.
Beautiful, beautiful. Well, thank you, everybody, for tuning in here to episode 207, I think, or 208, one of those.
200 and something.
Of the Bring Me to Life podcast. I was thinking about it, and I thought, there's probably not much longer until 200, and then I was like, wait a second, we're already beyond 200.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. So yeah, thanks for tuning in. We'll probably continue this discussion or something similar next week. We hope that you check out some previous episodes. Check out bringmetolife.com with the number 2. There's a lot of other amazing podcasts there. Good content. We're thinking about doing 24-hour radio shows on Thursdays. How do you guys feel about high vibe music? You should check out the radio show. And I think we have meditations and stuff on there too. And Celia, don't you have a really amazing trauma release meditation?
Yeah, so we're going to end the podcast here with a release and shed baggage and trauma to go along with the theme, and hopefully it will give people a place to start at least, and then you can explore from there and see ways that you can rewrite and work through your trauma. So many blessings. Enjoy this meditation, and until next time, stay awake.
Shine on always.
I believe that most, if not all of us, have had some sort of traumatic experience happen at some point in our lives. And this sort of baggage can cause physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual harm. So in today's meditation, we are going to heal this sort of toxic energy. We're going to let go of the baggage, and we're going to bring balance to our mental, physical, and spiritual health. So either sit with a straight back and your hands on your lap, or lie down with your arms by your sides. As you breathe, imagine the oxygen flowing easily through your body. Notice the rise and fall of your chest. Be thankful for being able to breathe and sustain life on this planet. Become aware of that space in between each breath. You're bringing awareness to the flow of life. Your body continues to relax deeper with each exhale. Let yourself know that it's okay to relax. It's okay to spend time meditating. And doing this is something that your future self is going to thank you for. Bring to mind a traumatic experience that you've gone through. Accept any feelings that arise. This is going to help you to heal any baggage. Imagine this moment being surrounded with a powerful golden light. This light heals any negative emotions that you may have been holding in from this experience. Allow yourself to accept this trauma being healed. Any baggage that's come from this traumatic experience is clearing up and leaving your spirit, mind, and body. Take a moment to think about what it would feel like for this event, this experience to be completely healed and being able to move on. If you need to, imagine any other moments of trauma coming up. Any baggage that was created from any of these other moments is being healed with the powerful golden light. Each moment that gets healed, you can feel yourself becoming lighter and gaining back more energy. Begin to finish up as we come near the end of the meditation. In a few moments, I'm going to lead you back. Notice how you feel now after doing this meditation. Being aware of your energy, your mind, your body, and your spirit. Breathe deeply as you come back from the meditation, imagining this oxygen helping you to feel more energized. You can wiggle your toes and fingers, becoming aware of all your physical senses. Take a deep inhale and a deep exhale. Whenever you are ready, open your eyes. Please share this.
For many of us, spirituality is just the quest to find essence or true meaning and to really just connect with a higher consciousness.
Connecting with your spirituality is very important in this life. By becoming mindful of all of it, you can realize where you are and if that is leading you to where you want to go.
Listen to the little simple things, because it's those little simple things that are going to shift you vibrationally in such a way that will prepare you to become very intuitively minded and ready to step forward on the next part of your path.
I hope you can feel the love that's inside you, that's inside me, that connects us.
Thanks for shining on with us.